is people not clearing their windshields. Even if it's not snowfall, you're outside, it's a heavy fall and stuff. And we're in heavy frost, it got real cold. People try to start up their car and drive. I had one experience with an individual I knew, got off of work, working a night shift. You get off 7 in the morning, you're tired, you want to go home. Started up the car and tried to drive away, and he's leaning forward because you know your windshield defrosts from the bottom, just a little bit of hole, and he's peering out this little hole to try to drive. Unfortunately, he came up to a light and rear-ended a car in front of him. His body, because he was leaning forward, he went forward into the steering wheel and he ended up fracturing his larynx. So he was out of work for quite a while, had to rehabilitate, learn how to talk, and things like this, all because, you know, we're kind of in a hurry and we don't want to
because he wouldn't take a little
out.
extra time to defrost the window off properly, remove the snow, and take a little ice scraper to help it along. People always wait to the last minute. When they go to work, they don't bank on the weather being bad. Sometimes you wake up for a big surprise. You got frost, like you say. You got icy road conditions, possibly from freezing rain on your window. But if you take a little time, so you're 5-10 minutes late from work or 15 minutes late from work, whatever the case may be, it's better that you be a little late than have an accident which involving serious damage to you or somebody else because you didn't take the time to let the car warm up properly and remove excess snow or ice off the windshield's front or rear.
Mm-hmm. And I think, too, that the thing I see, and probably you see a lot, is people don't take a lot of time to prepare themselves ahead of time. I'm sure you see it in the station, people coming in and out. In the wintertime, they're not wearing a coat. You know, you try to look nice, you know, the teenagers and stuff, you don't want to wear a coat, so you're in a T-shirt or sweatshirt or something like that, so you don't want to be outside for any length of time. And that, unfortunately, can cause you problems if you break down or things happen and you're not dressed properly.
Very correct. You brought up a very good point. A lot of people don't like to drive with coats on. In fact, I'm one of them myself. It's a little bulky when you have your coat on, but you should have a coat. You should have gloves, and I'm sure you can vouch for the gloves because you bought me my first pair. You should always have gloves. You should always have your coat in the car, and always have a flashlight. And this, in the event that you do break down, at least you won't freeze to death because you're prepared. And don't be afraid to bring a pair of boots or slip-on boots because there's nothing wrong with wearing boots. Everybody feels why wear boots in your car. When you're broke down and it's snowing and it's cold and you're coming home from work around 1 o'clock in the morning, this occurs, and there's nobody around there, it's cold. You're the only one around until you find help.
Mm-hmm. Moving on now, talking a little bit more about cars, the next thing that comes to my mind that we see a lot of problems with during the winter are batteries. Batteries either going low, going dead.
Yes.
Cars don't start. What can people do to check their battery ahead of time? Is there any way that they can just look at it and, you know, the battery's going to last me this winter, or what can they do to?
Most of the time, you are correct. A lot of people don't have any trouble with their batteries during the summertime, not as much as you would in wintertime. The first cold snap usually brings the problem out with the battery if it's going to exist. As far as preventive maintenance on your battery, most of the batteries are hardtop batteries which you can't fill. But you can have them checked by using equipment that would put them under a load and to see if the battery will hold up under a load. And at the same token, they would check your starter to make sure your starter isn't drawing too much current, and the fact to make sure that the alternating system is charging properly. Excuse me. Other than that, there is nothing that I could foresee that you can do other than that. Mm-hmm. You know, that's about the only preventative maintenance, unless the battery's been in for a 5-year period. And let's face it, 5 years on a battery is very, very good. After 5 years, I would just go ahead and replace the battery. And it's not always good to look around for price. The best thing is to look what the battery is capable of doing as far as reserve cold cranking amps to start the car, and always bear in mind what accessories you have on. Everybody plays their heater and their radio during the winter, and they also got their rear defrogger on or rear defroster, whatever the case may be. So sometimes it isn't always best to buy a battery that's not suitable for your car. Always try to get Manufacturers suggested on cold cranking amps or better.
The other thing I notice a lot when you get your first cold snaps, cold spells, or whatever, a lot of lights start going out, headlights, tail lights, those sorts of things.
Yes.
What causes that to happen at that particular time?
Usually, I can't say for sure. Sometimes there's moisture in a lot of your bulbs from condensation from small holes, but it's going from cold to hot because bulbs only last so many hours. I don't know the exact hours on some of your bulbs, but I do know that the bulbs that they use now, the replacement bulbing itself, the quartz bulb, doesn't last as many hours as a regular sealed beam light because of the high intensity. The brighter the bulb, the less hours it's going to last. And cold and hot plays a very important part on that.
And to check those, about the only thing I could suggest is a lot of people aren't aware of them. Every once in a while, you're basically going to have to turn your lights on in your car and get out and walk around your car to make sure that you have two working headlights, tail light, license plate light,
I agree.
those sorts of things.
Or if you have a local service facility that you deal with, ask them to go ahead. Would they give you a performance check on your automobile? And I'm sure 99 out of 100 will do it at a no charge to you. And they will check your lights, your tail lights, headlights, turn lights, stop lights, and your wiper blades. And usually they will check your window washer solvents and your fluids. This is, I'm sure there's no problem if you just ask.
You mentioned earlier checking belts. Can you do that on your own? Is there a simple way to look at your belts to see if they need replaced, or?
You can. A lot of your belts now some are serpentine belt, which is the wide belt with all the little grooves in it. You look for a belt that's got cracks in it, or sometimes you look at a V belt, which is the V-cut type belt. You look for cracks, you look for peeling, or parts of the belt missing, or real shiny and glazed, which would give you a lot of, which I shouldn't say give you a lot of squeal, but would give you slippage where you wouldn't get the full output of your alternator because your belt is slipping. Some instances they will make noise when you initially start them up in the morning, but as they progressively get warm, it goes away. But the biggest problem with belts, everybody forgets to check them, and nobody likes to be broke down 2 o'clock in the morning because a belt broke. And there again, I'm sure if you ask your local service facility, I'm sure they would check it out as a no cost to you at all.
You also mentioned about checking and testing antifreeze. What's the importance of antifreeze to an automobile?
Well, we all know if your temperature gets below 32 degrees, it gets pretty cold out there. Of course, in an automobile, it'll take a little more than 32 degrees to freeze. And with antifreeze, you have less chance of it freezing. Now, a lot of people take it for granted that you have an air-conditioned car, that you run antifreeze all year round, which is true. But a lot of times you are adding to your antifreeze because of loss of coolant, and a lot of people just add water. So my suggestion there would be before fall is a good time of the year, instead of waiting until the last minute again. I would suggest that you have your antifreeze tested to make sure that it's equivalent to handle the cold weather, which is going to come about sooner or later. And this way you'll be less worried on your behalf. Of course, now there's going to be days if the weather goes below zero and the wind chill factor is going to be a lot greater than that. There's going to be some instances, some cars that are going to overheat because of thermostat failure or not enough antifreeze in it. But this is something only nature can predict as far as the coldness is concerned.
We also touched upon tires briefly. I'd like to ask you, number one, the difference between, how should I say, standard tires as compared to snow tires. If there's, is there any benefit to having snow tires under standard tires? And also the second part of the question is the tread depth. Obviously, you don't want to have be running on kind of slick tires because you're really going to have problems in the
That's correct.
In the snow.
A regular tire has a tendency to build up snow in the grooves and does not have any cleaning action to help fling the snow out. But majority of your tires now that people are using are called what they call an MS tire, mud and snow tire, which actually going down the road will help self-clean and fling the snow out. And yes, it is a good thing to have good tires, because when you make a turn around the corner, whether you got front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, if you got a bald tire, believe me, the traction's not there. You would have more chance of running off the road, going into a ditch, or possibly hitting the guardrail if you're coming off the ramp, than you would by having good tires on the car. Unless you're that reckless at the wheel, which I doubt, but it is good to have good tires, yes. And it also plays an important part as far as gas mileage is concerned. If you have good tires, your gas mileage makes a difference.
Another thing that just came to my mind that we haven't touched on is we see a lot in the police viewpoint. We get called to a lockout, and people have their keys. The problem is that their lock is froze. Number one, we can't, once the lock's froze, it usually doesn't matter if they have the key or not. We can't really get in with the lock jack that easily to open it. What can people do for, how should I say, preventive maintenance or whatever to keep their door locks from, to keep this type of thing from happening to their door locks?
You brought up a good point there. The only thing that I could possibly suggest or would suggest, you can buy some graphite or some Lockies lubricant that you can spray into the door locking itself where you put your key in. Now, majority of the locks that are being made today, they have a cover protection over it, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's a lot different now than it was years ago. Years ago, there was very common occurrence. Now, with all the new plastics and stuff, they have a covering that they do put over it. But I still would suggest some sort of graphite or lock thaw that you can put in your lock, lubricant that you can actually spray, which is available at most of all your parts stores or any of your Kmart stores. And it wouldn't hurt to spray them at all.
Yeah, it would probably be best for people to keep, like for a lady to keep it in her purse maybe or something like that, or keep it inside the house. My theory is a lot of people will put things like that and leave it in the glove compartment or stuff like that, and then when their locks freeze,
I agree with you 100%.
They're not going to be able to get into the car
Right.
to get
They
the
make it
de-icer
so it
out.
comes in a small quantity, a small spray can, a little aerosol can, or a little squirt spout. They do make them in small cans. As far as carrying in a purse, that might not go over too good with the women because it might stink a little bit if it spills in there, but you are correct. It's always nice to have it at home in the garage or in the basement, wherever the case may be.
I think the point I was trying to make is that, if you're having problems with your locks, don't leave it inside.
That's
because
correct.
then when your locks freeze up,
Right.
you're not going to be able to get to it.
Right, and I wouldn't wait till the last minute, like you said. I would go ahead and lubricate it ahead of time, yes. For the little extra time it would take you, believe me, be further ahead. And always carry an extra set of keys on you besides, so you don't lock your keys in the car.
To touch a little bit on driving problems that we see, obviously your business tows, as do several others in the city. What types of, how should I say, problems do you see when you're having to tow vehicles as far as driver errors, Obviously, we still have areas in the city that don't have curbs, so we get a lot of cars, how should I say, just going into the ditch for one reason or another. What's their main problem, or what is the main reason that causes them to go into the ditch?
Well, when the first snowfall usually comes, everybody's a little nervous. Everybody's a little worried about getting to work on time or getting home on time, and they just seem to forget the fact that they are directing their automobile. And I would suggest there is just to exercise caution, take a little more time to get to work or get home, and there again, tires play a very important part. Don't take it for granted that the guy in front of you knows what he's doing. I would be more concerned about my automobile and always be on the defense about the gentleman in front of you, what he's going to do. The only thing I can tell you there is just to exercise caution on your behalf.
I think from the police viewpoint, too, the thing we encourage people to do is number one, slow down. Even if it's a 35-mile-an-hour zone, you get that first snowfall, even though we've driven for 20, 30, however many years people
I agree
have driven.
with you 100%.
You're going all summer, you tend to forget, and you get up close to that car, and you apply the brake, and all of a sudden that car starts sliding, and you're looking and say, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to stop.
I agree with you. Get a little how should I say, like you say, driving during the summer, you get a little carried away and you do make mistakes, but you are correct.
Just to recap things a little bit on a lot of the things that we covered, I think the main point we're trying to get across here is to prepare ahead of time for these things and not wait till last minute. I'm sure you, along with, you know, however many other garages and automobile shops that we have in the city, you get that flood at that first snowstorm, everybody comes in and nobody's capable of handling all that business at once.
I agree with you, Nick. Like I say, everybody has a tendency to wait till the last minute, and this creates a lot of problem, not only for me, but for other service facilities in the area. Everybody wants their car done, but they want it done now. And it's hard to accommodate everybody all at the same time because it's impossible. And I myself and my staff doesn't want to rush on a car. We like to take our time and do the job right. So the person does not have any problems when they are on the road at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning or 5, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever the case may be. And this is why I say I would not wait till the last minute to get your car serviced or to get it checked or get your free safety inspection, which I'm sure everybody offers, with your lights and wipers and your fluids and stuff. And I'm sure if you ask them to check your tires, they'll do that as far as air pressure, tire wear, tire depth. I'm sure they'll do all this for you. It is out there. The service is available. Like I said, I doubt very much if anybody will charge for a service safety check on your car. And people should take advantage of this. This would give them less problems during the winter for themselves, the people around them, and for your local police departments.
I think just one last thing I want to cover. People don't realize that, like I say, you tow, a lot of other businesses tow also, and you get tied up. You know, obviously our accidents go up, cars in ditches, so you're losing automobile technicians also that have to go out and tow these vehicles. So that's less people that you have inside the station to work on cars because they're out on tows. So
Yes.
it's kind of gets swamped at once, and
Right.
everybody wants stuff done yesterday, and it's kind of
Right.
difficult.
I agree with you, and we do AAA towing, and like I say, when the first cold comes by and the first snow comes by, or freezing rain, you'd be surprised how much those phones ring, and everybody wants to tow a truck now, or your services now, and it's hard to accommodate everybody at one time. Even if you have all three of your trucks out, you just can't accommodate everybody at one time. You try to do the best as you can without involving yourself in a mishap or endangering somebody else at the same time.
Well, Ross, I'd like to thank you for taking time to join us here today, and I'd like to thank you for watching Police Beat. Hopefully you can use some of the information that you've heard here today to help you have a safe winter driving season. Once again, thank you for watching Police Beat.